Today, let's talk about one very personal topic that's very close to my heart: traveling. Let's see, what about traveling to or within the Philippines? Let's see, where do we start? Number one, packing your essentials or your luggage or suitcase. Of course, as you all know, Philippines is a tropical country, and most often than not, it's always hot and humid in here. Even during the rainy season, it's still pretty humid for the most part. So better bring very comfortable clothing, shoes, and maybe slippers, sandals. Foldable umbrella would be nice. If you have lighters, because it varies, certain airports in the Philippines would allow you to have your lighters checked in, and then some, they'd say lighters would have to be on your carry-on baggage. So I don't know, really, I guess it depends on the airports. Going to the airport, you have to allot plenty of time traveling, especially going to any of the Manila airports. Traffic is always horrible. At least try to get to the airport 2 to 3 hours before your departure time. So that means it could be leaving your house 3 to 5 hours before your departure time, depending on where you're going to be coming from. Of course, it is advisable that you pick the departure times that are for flights that are leaving wee hours or super early morning. Speaking of airports, most airports here in the Philippines are substandard. Been to quite a few airports already in my years of traveling, and the only airport that is a little bit closer to the acceptable level of, you know, being a decent airport is NAIA Terminal 3. It's got shops, restaurants, and the space is pretty okay, but it houses a lot of airlines as well, so it can be pretty chaotic at some points, especially on busy season like long holidays, Christmas season, etc. You must know if you're supposed to pay terminal fees and travel tax. Instead of taking that out of your pocket money, then might as well just, you know, allot a specific amount of local currency for it, so you can just pay for it upon arrival in any airport in the Philippines. It is advisable that you research the mode of transportation that you're gonna select. If you have family or friends who would pick you up from the airport, then that's perfect, that's great, you should be fine. But if you are going to commute or take a cab, then you should really research. Case in point, for the Metro Manila airports, there are quite a few number of options for transportation. Number one, the most common that you would see right outside the arrival area would be the airport white taxis. These have a pre-arranged or preset or fixed amount depending on the area of your destination. And then you also have the second option, which would be the yellow taxis. These are similar to your regular taxis, except their flag down rate is a little bit higher, and their per meter rate is a little bit higher. But from my experience, from Naiya going to Ortigas using the yellow taxi, my fare including tip would be about 350 pesos to 400. I'd say moderate traffic. And if I take the regular taxi, my fare would be probably about 80 to 120 pesos less. So it, to me, yellow taxis are still pretty okay, because at the airport upon arrival you don't really get the regular meter taxi just right outside the arrival area, unless you decide to go up the departure area. You just have to wait for passengers who are supposed to depart to get off the cab, and then you take the cab. So that's another option. That's option number 3. Option number 4 would be for you to call your Uber or your Grab car or your Grab taxis, but again, depending on the time, that might be a little challenging. Option number 5 would be a little bit tricky. You can take some of the buses there that go around, terminals and key areas near the airports, and you can take cab from there or bus or whatever mode of transportation you'd like. Some other buses, complimentary buses from Resorts World, and yeah, I think Soler, I'm not sure, but Resorts World for sure they have. And in the airports, you can take the bus and then you can get off at the Resorts World area, and there's plenty of regular metered taxis over there that you can take. Try to avoid the people who are trying to give you fixed rates, if they're not, especially if they're not the airport taxis, because those would give you the receipts, and they give you the name of the driver, etc., and then they log your details, your destination, so it's pretty safe. But if you're getting some invites from, I don't know, from people who look shady, then I suggest you turn them down. Okay, so that's good. Getting around the city or town, for the most part, it's still pretty cheap to go around using taxi compared to other countries and other cities. Taxis in the Philippines are still pretty cheap, so it's still pretty convenient. You just have to be very careful of some drivers who might be opportunists and criminals, so just be very careful of that. But they're supposed to actually hang the IDs of the driver, so it has all the necessary information. You can take a photo of that, send that to your family or friend, just so they know your information while you're in transit, right? If only the train system is okay, as like what I've mentioned in one of my earlier video vlogs, it would be okay, but it's not really that advisable. Mind you, no matter what time of the day, even if it's the very first minute that the train stations open, sardines. And even if it's the same if it's the last 30 minutes before they close, it's the same. Don't even think about it. Yeah, I've experienced similar situations like the one in like in Tokyo or in Osaka, but only on very, very busy hours of the day. But here in Metro Manila, it's like almost every single hour, every single interval. So don't sweat it. So just take the cab. Just take the cab if you're willing to bear the traffic. That's the only problem. What else? Buying things or shopping for local goods. If you're gonna buy from bazaars or markets, most of the sellers tend to offer different prices to foreigners and even to balikbayan Filipinos. And if they smell that you're from abroad and if you're just coming back for a vacation, then chances are they're gonna quote you a relatively higher price. So rule of thumb is for you to just cut the price at least 50 to 60% off and then just work your way from there. You can get back to them after a while. You just have to check and compare the prices from the other stores, and then chances are they're gonna run after you and ask you how much would you like to buy that item for. So that's usually the trick, and that usually works. Always a good decision to have somebody local to join you on your shopping trips. Next tip would be on food. Always be careful when you're trying to eat street food. Depending on how sensitive your stomach is, I guess it's okay if you're not that sensitive, but if you are, then I suggest you just don't try it at all. You might just catch some gastric diseases. Or you can, some food courts at the malls, they'd also serve some street foods actually, so you can try them. There's always a lot of new and hip and fresh restaurants out there. Name it, Metro Manila alone, a lot of very, very good international cuisines that you can choose from. You'll never run out of very good food here in the Philippines. I don't think you could keep up with whatever's new and popular here in Metro Manila, for instance. Oh, and speaking of eating out, tipping, it's not like in the US where it's really customary for you to tip, and at the same time it's not like in Japan where you're really not supposed to tip, because if you do, they take offense, right? Here it's kind of in between. What people say is that if your bill or your check, if it has service charge, then it's okay to not tip. But if it doesn't have service charge, then you should tip. Here in the Philippines, we don't necessarily follow the percentage tipping depending on how much your actual bill is. So it could really range from 5% to 15%. It's really up to you. But in my case, if I really, really like the food and the service, aside from calling the attention of the manager or the chef and giving my compliments to them personally, if they're not that busy, I also personally verbalize how I appreciate the service of the wait staff. So I call them out, or I answer the survey, and then of course I try to be generous with my tip regardless if there's service charge or not. So next tip, building your itinerary. Factor in traffic on your travel. It's not advisable that you travel on foot. Not all tourist spots are very close to each other. Number two, the weather is going to kill you. So it will be nice if you have either a car rental or you have somebody to drive you around. You can certainly make your pre-arrangements for your various activities. There's so many travel websites and travel agencies that can help you book your activities and itinerary beforehand, so you wouldn't have to scramble and procrastinate when you're here. Going back to getting by, Filipinos are generally hospitable and accommodating and helpful. So if you're lost or trying to find your way, going somewhere, you can politely ask anyone. I think most of the tourist spots would have good Samaritans who could always help you out. Just be very, very keen on people who would steal from you. They'd smell tourists from a mile away. So try to be as blended as possible. Dead giveaways would be usual SLR camera hanging on your neck, huge backpacks, and then if you're just walking and then just looking around in a very busy street, chances are something's gonna get stolen from your bag. So you better be careful. Be careful of pickpockets. There you go. If you're going to the family home of your friends, especially if you're about to meet the parents or the elderlies, it would be a nice gesture for you to mano, I don't know what it's called in English. Just grab the hand of the elderly and then put it on your forehead, you know, as you bow. So it's like a sign of respect. They truly appreciate that. I think that's one of the older core Filipino values. I like the mano. I really, really like that. And speaking of being in a Filipino family home, when they offer you, they always offer you to eat. So you should really eat, because most often than not, especially if they know beforehand that a visitor is coming to their home, it will be very rare that a family would not prepare something for you. So you should really eat at least a little something, or don't be shy to even bring home some, to have some for takeaway. That's fine. They're gonna love you for that. Actually, let's talk about nightlife here. Clubbing or partying, especially on a Friday or a Saturday night, the clubs won't be busy until maybe about 11 p.m. and people party up until 4, 5 a.m. or even 6 a.m. So don't go there too early, like 9:30. It's gonna be way too early. You're just gonna get drunk before midnight, and you might not be able to enjoy the rest of the night, right? If you're trying to figure out where to stay, of course, hotels are always good, especially the 3 to 5 star ones. If you're not on a budget, then it's always a good one. You don't have to worry about so many things, really. You may want to check out Airbnb as well. The Airbnb in the Philippines is actually a growing business, I think. So you may be able to find very, very good options right there. Very competitive and reasonable prices. I know there might be a little option for couch surfing, though I haven't tried it myself. I know of a few friends who offer couch surfing, so therefore I think that's an option. For the provinces in the Philippines, it's actually way better if you just stay in a friend or a family's home. They're used to having visitors. It's actually more fun. You get to interact with them. You get to see how they live. You get to talk to them. Get to know them. It's way better. I think those are pretty much the key things that I would want to personally share about traveling here in the Philippines. There's so many nice places to go to, even unexplored destinations that tourists, local and foreigners alike, can certainly enjoy. As our local cliche goes, it's more fun in the Philippines. Those are my tips. I hope those are helpful somehow. Enjoy your travels. Bye. Toodles.